I want to take a moment to talk about automation clips and how they will revolutionize your project. Automation means having an action automated or having it do something on its own. This can be something as simple as having a volume slider move up or down at a specific moment, or can be a complex operation with many different controls moving at once. Automation gives us the freedom to set an action and have it repeat exactly how and when we want every time. Back before we had automated mixers, and certainly back before we had digital recording software, engineers and producers would have to do a move that's known as riding the faders. Riding the faders meant the engineer would have to physically move the volume sliders or pan pots, as well as any other controls he wanted to move on the final output. This meant getting the action just right as the final output was being sent to the master tape. Of course, this resulted in a lot of wasted time and redoing the same thing over and over if something went wrong. Today, we can set a lot of hardware and software to do the same thing for us, but we have the benefit of being able to go back and reset our automation if things aren't right without degrading our audio or our arrangement. Automation will give you the key to making your project more professional and controlled, as well as more energetic and exciting. I want you to listen to this example, and as I play it, notice that nothing changes. Everything is static. Now, I've already made some automation clips, which I'll insert now, and you can hear the difference. You heard in that example how automation spiced up the sound and added some depth to it. In this video, we'll take a look at how to create and use automation clips and discuss a little bit about automation in general. First, you have to decide what you want to automate. Again, it could be something as simple as a volume change or panning, or it could be more involved, like multiple knobs and sliders going at once. To create an automation clip for the desired control, you can right-click on the control and select Create Automation Clip. A new channel will be inserted into an automation clips group. Notice that it is panned hard left. This is needed in order for FL Studio to read the data. You should not adjust any of the channel volume or panning settings, as an automation clip doesn't actually deliver any sound. Rather, what it does is transmit data to the program that tells it what controls to operate. With our automation clip created, we can go to the playlist and left-click to insert it. It will appear as an empty clip with a line running through it. The line represents the value of the control and will always start with the value of the control at that point in time. In this example, the volume knob is set at 78%, and when we hover over the first point in the line in the automation clip, you'll see it's at 78%. You can use automation clips by adjusting the line to move up and down, representing lowest to highest values. So in this case, we want to have the control start at 0 and go to 78%, which is where we're at now. So in our automation clip, we'll left-click the little circular handle and drag down to the bottom. So what we have now is an automation clip that runs 1 bar, and while that 1 bar is playing, the volume knob will start at 0 and turn up to 78%. I'll make sure I'm in song mode and press play, and you'll see the control turn up. Now, the automation clip can function anywhere on the timeline, and any changes that you make to it, just like pattern clips and audio clips, will be applied to other instances. We can move the automation clip anywhere on the timeline in the playlist, and when the position indicator rolls over it, the action will take place. This is great if you want to use multiple instances without having to create the same action over and over again, or if you want the action to repeat once every 4 bars or something similar. Now, again, automation clips don't actually produce any audio. They simply tell the program what and when. So in order to hear automation, we need audio playing for that controller. In this case, because we've tweaked the volume knob of this channel, we'll need to either insert a pattern clip for this pattern or a pattern block. When we do, we need to make sure that it runs along with the automation clip. If we move the automation clip, it will still work, but it will not begin its action until the timeline scrolls over it. This can be helpful in creating unique effects or complex movements. Keep in mind that you can automate just about everything in FL Studio. Simply right-click the control and select Create Automation Clip, and one will be created. Now that we've seen how to create and operate automation clips, let's take a look at editing them. We can add points to our line by right-clicking. This will add a point and will add a point of tension in between. This tension point will give us control over the fading in or out of the line. This ultimately controls the speed with which actions happen, as the curve will either fade in slowly and then quickly reach the top or have a gradual increase. You can use whatever you need to make the effect happen. To delete a point, right-click on it and select Delete. This will remove the point and join the points that were on either side of it. We also have some options for different types of curves. You can select a single or double curve, or have a stair effect between points. To adjust these, you can left-click on the tension points and drag up or down to see the result. These are great for creating all kinds of effects. You can reset the curve by right-clicking the tension point. You can also resize automation clips by hovering over the rightmost end and left-clicking to drag. The options we have here in the left-hand corner allow us to either slide the remaining points or not. If you have this option on and you left-click a point to move it, every point after it will be moved as well. With the option off, you can move points around without affecting anything else. This is good if you're trying to preserve existing automation data. We also have options in the Clip Track Focus area for step editing. With this option on, you can left-click and drag to draw out a freehand line. If you hold Shift while doing this, the points will be independent of each other and will not have a diagonal line between them, but will have a straight line. Another thing I want to take a look at is in the channel window for the automation clip we've created. We have controls here for controlling the playback of the automation clip. I wouldn't recommend messing with these unless you have a specific reason to, as they can cause some serious headaches. We can see here that where the volume and panning controls were, we have a min and max control. This is why I was saying it's best to leave the channel panning to the left, because it needs to be there in order to operate. These controls determine the minimum and maximum level needed for the automation to occur. The time controls determine the speed with which the playback occurs. We also have an LFO option, which will actually automate the automation with the LFO settings, meaning the LFO speed, tension, and so on will affect the automation clip like it would with audio. The multiply switch will combine the LFO with the main automation clip's spline or line curves. With it off, they will be separated and not exclusive to each other. Now, what if you were using a generator or effects that are not FL Studio and don't give you the right-click menu option to create an automation clip? Not to worry, you can usually still create a clip. What you can do is click on the top left-hand corner of the screen in the plugin window or the Fruity Wrapper window and select Last Tweaked Parameter. This will then give you the option to create an automation clip from the last knob or control that you moved on the plugin's interface. This opens the door to virtually unlimited possibilities in that you can basically automate anything in the entire program. This again will give you full control over what you change, when, and how. No more writing faders just to get the right changes. You can now set the controls to run on their own and never have to worry about missing an opportunity again. The last thing to mention is slicing. You can slice automation clips, but you have to pay attention to what and where. The reason is that the automation will be sliced, but the points will remain on their original clips and will interact in this way. What I mean is that if you have a line and you slice it in half, you will have two halves with a point on each. If you move them apart and adjust one of the points, the entire line will move just like normal, but the first point will still be back on the first half, so you will have to pay close attention to where you are moving the different slices and keep up with what is attached to what. Otherwise, you could end up moving slices around and losing track, which will end up wasting your time when you have to fix them. The other way to work with automation in FL Studio is with the event editor. We've touched on this a little bit in previous tutorials, but I wanted to point out what it is and what it does. When you right-click a control, you'll see an option that says Edit Events. Selecting this brings up the event editor. You can left-click to draw out curves which work just like the splines in the automation clips. Before automation clips, this was really the only way to fine-tune automation. You can draw out data on the event editor and it will play along in the same manner as an automation clip. If you need to erase data and start over, you can select the menu from the top left-hand corner and under Edit, select Delete All. This removes any edited events and allows you to start over. Otherwise, even if you erase all the data, the control will begin each time at 0 because it is reading a 0 from the events editor since the data has been taken down to the lowest point. A few things to point out as well. Here, we have an interpolation tool, which can also be found in the Note Properties window in the piano roll when editing events. This will attempt to smooth out the curves as you draw. You can also convert the events you're editing into an automation clip under the Tools menu. So in this tutorial, we've seen how to add and edit automation and events using the great tools provided by FL Studio. Coming up, we'll take a look at how you can edit your projects, as well as how to insert and use effects and the mixer. Remember to take your time and save your project often and experiment with automation to use it to its fullest potential.